Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews. We're going to be talking about Doom Patrol today. I finally got my DC Universe working, and I skipped Titans because I'm not watching Titans. But I did see Doom Patrol Season 1, Episode 1, because it was the one that actually intrigued me the most. It didn't... Look, anybody who puts it in the comments section, I'm not going to watch Titans. I saw enough of that garbage. No. But Doom Patrol, on the other hand, I was intrigued by. Mostly because of the cast and because it had this kind of very retro feel to it. Kind of like Justice Society of America meets a little bit of Watchmen lore, meets a little bit of like, I don't know. Like, it just, there's a uniqueness to this kind of thing. Like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen maybe is what I'm thinking of. But it also, I saw that Greg Berlanti was attached to this and I went, because look, I like some of the early stuff from the CW's DC shows. I like the first couple of seasons of Arrow. I like the first couple of seasons of The Flash. I still continue to like DC's Legends of Tomorrow because it's just batshit crazy. But I don't watch Supergirl and I don't watch Black Lightning, and the current shows of Flash and Arrow have just, to me, gone down like they're just full on soap operas now. Like, who's in love with who and all this shit. But anyway. That being said, and if you like that, that's fine. Like I said, I like some of it. Like Black Lightning, I've never even seen. And Supergirl, that's just, I've watched enough to know that I don't like it. But Doom Patrol, to me, is like, what if the CW was really good? Okay, this isn't the best thing I've ever seen in my life. But it's really, for what it is, it's really incredible. I was entertained from start to finish with this. And I really do feel like this is like, if the CW didn't have constraints as far as like what you can air, if it had a better budget, if it could get better actors, people that, and also actors maybe you didn't really think of before, that aren't necessarily name brands or soon to be name brands, what you can do with this stuff and take the material. So like, I'm, full disclosure, not really that familiar with the Doom Patrol. I mean, the only person I recognized was Cyborg. And I know I'd heard the name Robot Man, but like everybody else in this, it made me think more like Watchmen type characters, like Crazy Jane and Mr. Nobody and Elastigirl. Just kind of names that sound like they come from another time period. But I have to say, like, without getting into spoilers right away, like, because full spoilers if you haven't seen this, like I said, this pilot is fantastic. And as far, I can't wait. I had to rewatch this, okay? I've had my notes for this for a while. I've been putting off making any content because I believe it's my video software editing stuff that's causing the clicks and the scratchiness. I've looked into everything, and I think, and so I've just been not making as many videos because I know that they're all going to have that noise until I can afford to get better video software. Or maybe it's partially my, the internet quality that we have here in BF, the middle of BF nowhere in Illinois. But anyway, getting to the actual show at hand instead of complaining about everything else. This is, I thought it was a weird choice for the DC Universe to kind of have one of its flagship shows be something like this. Also, Swamp Thing was also a very weird choice as well. Like Titans, as much as I don't want to ever watch it, makes sense in a way because they're capitalizing on Teen Titans Go and Teen Titans Go to the movies. They're capitalizing on that, and that's fine. But Swamp Thing, Like, I know it's got its fans, right? I know it's got its hardcore fans, and that's great. I have nothing against the character of Swamp Thing. But as far as, like, getting your channel started, Swamp Thing? And again, I said, Doom Patrol? Like, what are they going for? But regardless of how I feel about Titans, or that Swamp Thing maybe should be something that comes down when you've established yourself better so that people are more willing to watch something weird like Swamp Thing. And then Doom Patrol, though, feels kind of like perfect because it's taking what feels like a CW show. Like, let's get this straight. This still feels like a CW show, just with a bigger, like, budget, bigger, like, view. Like, it has a bigger, something to say that's, I don't know, the idea is bigger than most things that they usually come up with, like, right out the gate. Ambitious is what I'm trying to think of. But it fits pretty perfectly because it gives you a team, it gives you a bunch of characters you maybe never heard of, and it has some incredible writing for a CW-esque show. I know people are going to say, this isn't the CW, but it's Greg Berlanti, so yes, it fucking is. Okay? Because you can feel it in the production and the sets. The sets especially feel very CW. It's pretty much, Vancouver, Canada stuff where everything kind of looks the same. And if you've seen enough shows, you know what I'm talking about. But again, that being said, it's fine. It really, really is. And we just, so I can stop talking about what it's based on. And you got to get the DC Universe. I hope it comes out on Blu-ray because I will be interested in buying this on Blu-ray. And I will be talking about every episode of this series because I'm pretty psyched after watching the first episode to, like, get to the second one. I really am. Like, I almost want to binge this now, but I'm still taking my time and letting myself go episode to episode. In fact, I was supposed to be recording The Leftovers. That's why I'm wearing this shirt. But again, my confidence is kind of shaken in my camera equipment and my editing software, so I didn't change into a DC shirt like I wanted to. So anyway, we open with, first off, Alan Tudyk. Did not know he was a part of this until I turned it on. If I'd have known Alan Tudyk was a part of this, I'd have been a subscriber to DC Universe day one. And that's saying something, because you either know who Alan Tudyk is and you know exactly why I'm excited, and then there's the people who don't know who Alan Tudyk is, and it's like, go to fucking hell. But he's a treasure. Okay, he's a fucking treasure. So when I heard his voiceover start the episode, Paraguay, 1948, I was like, oh yeah. And then finding out that he's not just a narrator, he's a character called Mr. Morden, who he calls himself a third-rate bad guy. I also like that these stories start, like a lot of stories, start with a visit to a Nazi or a cobbler. And like I said, his narration is so damn perfect. The narration reads like it's straight from a comic book, and I don't know if that's true, but the writing feels very much like a comic book. Like a blurb describing what's going on in the history feels like panels words taken out of panels from a comic book. But he has a bunch of money. He's this third-rate bad guy who finds this ex-Nazi who says he can give him powers. Or abilities, give him something, and he puts him in this tank, and it's the guy who played Ichabod on Patriot and the Mortician in Perpetual Grace. Again, I forget that poor guy's name. I have it written down somewhere, I think, for Patriot. In one of my Patriot notes somewhere around here. But anyway, he has him say the phrase, the mind is the limit, over and over again, until he basically, something fucking crazy happens to him where his body just kind of splits apart. And it's important to remember that he called himself a nobody when he's describing himself before the procedure. Because I believe they call his character's name Mr. Nobody after this. And I guess what we're witnessing is the birth of a villain, or a birth of someone who becomes a villain. Because right now, he does not sound like... he sounds like a sarcastic villain character, as far as people that haven't seen this yet, is what I'm saying. So he jumps the story to Florida 1988, where we're introduced to Brendan Fraser's character, Cliff Steele. Now, damn, Brendan, He's looking old. Like, it's so weird. Like, come on. Why? And here goes my camera going crazy again. Sorry, everybody. This goddamn thing. Um. So he's gotten older. I don't know what happened, but between like the Mummy and I remember like the movie Crash, all of a sudden. But he's looking older. Well, he has an accident, and what we assume is this car crash that he gets into, put his body out of commission so that they could only save his brain, which is how we're introduced to Timothy Dalton's character, Dr. Niles Calder, who's kind of your Professor X type character, bringing these different characters together. He makes him a robot. And again, I was like, where do I sign up for that? Where do I sign up for that? Like, if putting my brain in a robot body, I'm fine with it. If it means that I can live forever, I'm fine with it. Let's make this happen. I somehow always find these shows where it's something about immortality or putting a brain in a robot. I keep finding these shows. It's fate. Nod your head. We also then are introduced to Larry Trainor, who from 1961. I love that he's called, Mr. Nobody calls him an atomic age sex machine. It's played by Matt Bomer, who is a beautiful man. I know he's been on some things, like I think what was it, Suits or something like that. One of those shows on USA. I never watched it, but he's got crazy eyes, crazy like piercing eyes, and he was also in The Nice Guys, one of my all-time favorite movies. So it's cool to see him here, even though it's mostly voice acting, same as with Brendan. They get more from Brendan than we get from Matt. Now, hopefully they've filmed a bunch of stuff with the actual actors, because I believe they've got like 2 credits on IMDb showing like who did the voice and who did the actual walking around as far as Robot Man, and the Negative Man, right? Is that what they call him later? I think that's what his name is. Oh yeah, Negative Man. Okay, so he was like an Air Force pilot testing like suborbital aircraft, and when he went up there, there was a stowaway, some sort of alien force that hits the jet. Now, why was it up there at that exact moment is pretty, a question that I have. Because otherwise, coinky dink, I hate fucking coincidences, man. I fucking hate that shit. Oh, we just happen to be cruising by Earth when all of a sudden it's the exact same time that you guys plan to shoot a spaceship into orbit. I think that there was something watching the planet, and it got into him somehow. Maybe that was a mistake, but they were there for a reason. And he comes blasting down to Earth, and it's all pretty crazy. But it does save his life when he crashes. But that would have, again, you see that would have destroyed his family. Like, he probably stayed away from them, all burned up. Maybe he was a secret of the government, like how did Dr. Niles Calder get him away from the government? That would be an interesting story. Plus the fact that they reveal later that, that Larry was gay, or is gay. No, he was gay until he crashed, and then he suddenly wasn't gay anymore. Sorry. We're introduced to Rita, who was an actress. We get to see her downfall. Everybody's kind of got, like, I don't know, their powers kind of link up to, like what they were like, I guess, maybe in real life somehow. Everything seems to fit them a little bit. So she's like this actress. It's Africa 1955. She can't stand to look at this guy without an arm. It's bothering her. I mean, I don't think it's because he was black. I think she was bothered of the attractiveness, the lack, like she was too distracted by the ugliness. And so somebody, I think, said, I was watching Real Talk Reactions, they said that somebody, messed with the boards, but I don't think that's true. I think that the boards fell in, because that was just, she wouldn't have drowned. That would have been, she fell through, and then that rock that has like the blob in it goes into her face, and then starts messing with her DNA. So she becomes like a human blob. I hope that there's more to it than that. But she's played by April Bowlby, if I'm saying her name right. I couldn't place her. Going, I know her from somewhere, and I'm ashamed to admit this because I know her from Two and a Half Men. I hate that show, but she played a character named Candy, and if you know what I'm talking about, there's a reason, and I'm ashamed of myself that that's why I watched those episodes of Two and a Half Men. It was because of her character Candy. I'm an awful human being. But I'm glad that she gets to do something interesting instead of just being a sex object on TV. And I like that she's got, a normal voice. All right. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back. Although for you guys, it's been a split second. My goddamn camera and my editing software are just such crap. I don't understand what's going on anymore. There shouldn't be anything wrong with this camera, but the control panel just keeps freaking out and buffering and stopping, and the video editing software runs so poorly now. I don't know what's causing this. This wasn't the way my videos used to sound like. I didn't used to have so many breaks where I'm now afraid to even run the camera for very long before it buffers out and stalls the entire computer out. I run nothing on this computer except for YouTube, my editing software, and the camera. I don't use it as a regular computer. So I don't know what's going on. So we got cut off right when we were talking about Rita, and so I'm sitting down in my regular sitting area. So let's just go back into it. So she, but I was talking about Rita and April Bowlby, who played her. It's nice to see that she had gets to use a regular voice instead of a cartoon voice. But I don't know what I'm missing here. So I basically thought, she didn't like the guy with the one arm. She falls into the water. She gets the blob monster put inside her, and so because she couldn't handle the guy's ugliness, right, she becomes ugly and can't keep herself together. And she's basically like Clayface, and I hope that we get, some more into her backstory. I don't know how much I already said on this video. I just cut it off right where I think where it really started to freak out. And then Robot Man. So he figures out how to walk, and his story, I thought I just hate him, right? I thought I'm supposed to hate him, or at least how he hates himself. I can understand that part, but I do like the character. He's just another person, that we know. Look how many people start out small, become famous, lose their way. It's a story that's been done to death, and then he gets into an accident with his family and they die. And, well, his wife dies, his body's destroyed, and they tell him that his daughter's gone. And was he probably wasted when he picked up his family? Yeah, he probably was. I don't know, that whole story was a little weird, calling on a drunken night, let me just tell you how sorry I am, baby. And maybe that's just their cycle, that they, he messes up, she runs to her parents, and then he calls and picks him up. And maybe this is a thing that happens all the time, except this time they run right into a truck and she dies. And that's the memory that wasn't there before. He thought that he died on the racetrack, when really he died trying to fix his life, but he was still too fucked up and ended up killing, his whole life. But I wrote down only survivor ? Because they were really hammering at home that he's the only one who survived and everything. But I was like, I don't buy that. And also, this show is definitely in its own universe, which I am completely fine with. It has to be. I don't want this to be connected to anything else. If they bring in anything, I want it to be in its own weird way. I don't want to see fucking Batman or the Teen Titans show up or anything like that. I really don't want to see that shit. I mean, I guess they're in the same universe, but I wouldn't know. Somebody said that the Doom Patrol showed up on Titans, but I don't know if that was just a preview of this show or if their characters were actually on that show. I hope not. I really, really hope not. We finally introduced to Crazy Jane, played by Diane Guerrero, who's got 64 personalities, and each of them has an ability. And she's very much like Legion, like David Haller. Except now, I was going, who the hell is Diane Guerrero? I feel like I knew her, and now I feel like such an idiot. She was on Orange is the New Black. And it's like, well, now I know what happened to that character on Orange is the New Black. Spoiler alert for Orange is the Black. She goes to Colombia and, like, you never see her character again. And I was like, what happened? Why didn't we get more of her character? And, oh, I know why. They wrote her off because she was here doing Doom Patrol. And let me tell you something about Diane Guerrero, okay? She could be the next Salma Hayek. I don't mean that in, like, I mean, if she gets the right role, she could be considered the next Salma Hayek. This girl is stunning. And she's a really good actress. I loved her on Orange is the New Black. Not just because she was beautiful either. She was really funny, and you could tell that there was more going on than just a pretty face. She knew how to work people. She was a good con artist. Which made it really sad that her character just kind of disappeared. And I know that the point of that season, but we're not here to talk about that. So I just wanted to bring that up, that she's really good. I'm really happy that she's in this show. I really am. The only one we haven't been introduced to is Joyvan Wade as Cyborg, but I think we get to him in episode 2. Well, they decide, because Timothy Dalton has to go back out into the world, very Umbrella Academy guy. That was the other thing I was thinking about, was the show reminded me of Umbrella Academy. But he goes off, like, on to find new things and all this, and it makes me wonder, like, again, he's one of those characters that obviously has a past. And is he as good as we think? What if he's the supervillain? What if he's basically putting these people together to do something bad? I don't know. Because he seems shady. But they decide when he leaves to take a road trip. She takes Larry's bus and paints it black. Okay. That's the only thing about her character is, like, she's got 64 personalities, and so far the only one we really know is Hammerhead, who just cusses and swears all the time, and that's fine, ha ha ha. But when we need something more than him going forward, seriously. But they go off on a road trip because, of course, they want to see the world, which it's the worst idea. It's the fucking worst idea in the world. It's one of the only things about the plot that feels very much like everything else you see is the dum-dums who go and leave their safety behind to go have an adventure, thinking the world, everything will be fine when you know everything's going to go to shit. You just know it. There's no that story never. If that's what had happened, I would have applauded this show for being a little more risky and saying, you know what, maybe nothing happened this time. Maybe you go second time though, something happened. Because, road trips always end up great. Remember One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? That turned out fine. And the movie Road Trip. That turned out fine. Thelma and Louise, that ended on a happy note. And also, Crazy Jane, let's just call her Jane. She's really abrasive, but really, really loud about him and his daughter. Like, she's really, I know it's her personality thing, but I think the way she's playing it is a little too much on the, like, hey man, your daughter's still out there. Like, hey man, maybe back off just a little bit. Like, you don't have to talk to him like that hard. Sorry, I'm going to be pausing these like intermittently just to make sure that this thing doesn't buffer on me and like freeze up. I think that's something I'm going to have to remember to do a lot more in the future. But her intensity is a little too much at sometimes in this episode. And I was really happy that he smashed her phone. I was like, shut up, shut up, please. And Elastigirl, who's getting like a history lesson from somebody whose dad followed her work. And everything's going great until she finds out that they all called her a drunk and that she was into porn. And she starts to fall apart, and then she literally becomes the Blob. And this effect is incredible and awful at the same time. There's parts in this where it looks really great, especially in the last few seconds of it. Look really fantastic. The rest of it just looks really, really bad. Like, it's bad. But the thing is like, honestly, it didn't take away from anything. It didn't take me out of the episode. It just made me feel like the visual effects shots weren't always finished when it comes to that. But, I mean, they were pushing the budget. They were running a budget. I mean, this show has, at least this pilot episode has a great production quality. And I can't say enough about the score. Also, like all the music that's in this, not just the soundtrack, but the score is fantastic. I love the synth that's in here, and yeah, it does hit the soundtrack buttons with some pretty interesting choices for different for music in this. A lot of classics, but also some like really interesting choices though. But yeah, everything falls apart. We do see part of a new personality come out of Crazy Jane, where it's a flame. It's like a Human Torch, and Brendan Fraser. And one of the great things about Brendan Fraser's character in this is how he's Brendan Fraser from the movies that you like. That same tone of voice, that Barry Mummy-esque sense of humor from back then that I've been missing. Okay, if they were to make another Mummy movie with him and maybe get the original people back together, I would see another Mummy movie just because I like this. When somebody knows how to write for Brendan Fraser, or a specific actor in general, when you just want them to do their thing, especially for people like Brendan Fraser, who's pretty much his only audience would be people that like that thing that he did back in those days, this is fun to see him be written by somebody who understands that, I think. Because when he's like, no, we're not doing that. I don't think anybody's ever used the phrase classic Fraser or classic Brendan Fraser, but I'm starting it because that's classic Brendan Fraser like dialogue from a movie Returns, or like other than the other '90s movies that he made. There was just a tone in his voice that is matched. That's really great here, and it reminded me of all those things. But he goes and he puts the concrete up and stops her from going over the top, but this whole thing, and then poor Larry's alien chest guy comes flying out for what reason, I don't know. We don't have any answers on that. Maybe it was stress that caused it to come out. I don't know. But they end up back home, and the chief comes home and he sees the thing and he's getting all in their faces, and it's the narration starts again though, and it talks about how the chief had many enemies. He's made enemies over the years. We see the donkey, we see Paraguay, so we know that this is going all the way back to when Mr. Morden became Mr. Nobody. I tried to look for an anagram just then, but that was really stupid of me. So he tells them that these people are coming, everything's going to be ruined, you guys got to run. Now, I don't like it when they do things like this. Everybody else decides to run. Robot Man's going to stay because he wants to start a life. He wants to go find his daughter, and he wants to save these people. He wants to be a hero. He wants to be a better person than he was. And so he's deciding to stay, and they all leave, and you go, they're all coming back. They're going to stop. So they get out of town, and then they come back, and they all meet up again, even though it's like, clearly, what are they going to do here? There is no plan. They don't really understand their powers. Robot Man just knows he's strong, and Jane might be able to help. But what can Elastigirl do, and what can Mr. Negative Man do when we don't know how he doesn't understand his powers yet, right? He says he's only learned a fraction in the decades that it's been. So again, I feel like this is all going to be about how they figure out their powers. But when they all come back and everything, it's great, and we get this cool synth music happening. And Mr. Nobody shows up on the bus talking to the chief, so they know each other, they're enemies, and the donkey farts the communication of the mind is the limit. So we know this is all connected to what went down in Paraguay, or at least some of it, and that Alan Tudyk's Mr. Nobody is going to be a very interesting character to watch, because is he a villain? Is he not a villain? I mean, I feel like things could be seen from different perspectives once we get the full idea and the scope of what's going on. But we know that they're going to have to fight some sort of portal in the ground, some vortex. I don't know how they're going to pull that off, but we know this is a road. They're getting out of town somehow, right? So that's the first episode, and I still got to say it. I'm sorry that I'm having to film it like this, but I'm going to pause it real quick. Okay. I highly recommend that if you can check this out, get the free trial for DC Universe and binge the hell out of it if you can. Otherwise, wait for it to come out on Blu-ray, or just get the service like I have. I can't wait. I'm going to get this uploaded and I'm going to watch the next episode right away. I know this is the full season's been out now, and this is old news, but I definitely want to support this show so far. So far I'm in. And I can't wait to see where it goes, because like I said, this is tempered expectations. This is really high quality CW stuff. Really, really, really high quality. Like, this is what should be on the CW every day. But I know that, again, this is not CW, this is DC Universe. But like I said, again, Greg Berlanti's attached. You're getting CW level stuff. That being said, this stuff is high quality for the most part to me. And it's the best thing that I've seen on the service, other than getting a bunch of like the animated movies. So I can't wait to see what else they're going to do on this show. I can't wait to see what DC Universe is going to do and see if they can improve upon shows like this. So anyway, we'll be back with episode 2. If you liked this review, though, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, all that jazz. Otherwise, this is Rob at Smirking Gun Review saying, hopefully we'll get this audio video thing figured out. Because I wanted to put clips in and everything like that, but we've been getting hit with a lot of copyright blocks and things like that. So otherwise, we'll see you on the next video, guys. Have a great day. Bye.